Hello, and welcome to part two of our two-part series where we are discussing the role of plasma in the COVID-19 response. Today, we will hear from our friends at Grifols who will share their unique approach. I'm joined by Joe Zura, the Senior Director of Corporate Affairs, Vlasta Hakes, the Director of Corporate Affairs, and Nick Uzel, Associate Director of Corporate Affairs. So for starters, Joe, can you tell me a brief history of Grifols and their role in the plasma world?
Sure, Lisa. And first of all, from myself and my colleagues, we'd like to say thank you for this opportunity to address the community. I think it's great what you're doing with these types of webinars. So for those folks that aren't familiar with Grifols, let me just give you a brief background. Grifols is a global healthcare company. It was founded in Barcelona, Spain back in 1909. And to this day, it continues on its mission truly of just helping people worldwide. The company itself has 4 different divisions. We have our bioscience division, our hospital division, our diagnostic division, and also our biosupplies business. And each of these divisions, they truly develop, produce, and actually market innovative solutions and services across the globe in over 100 different countries. Certainly, Grifols is a pioneer in the plasma business. Grifols has one of the largest platforms of plasma donation centers in the world, including up to 250 and growing here in the US. And what we do is we take the plasma that we collect from these different centers and we actually produce essential medicines out of the plasma to help treat people that have rare and life-threatening type conditions. Grifols is also a leader in transfusion medicine. We offer truly a comprehensive portfolio of solutions that are really designed to ensure safety from the initial donation all the way through the transfusion. And the other thing is that part of our hospital division, we supply hospitals with different tools. We help provide information and services to pharmacies, to other healthcare providers to basically help them efficiently deliver medical care. At Grifols, we have over 24,000 employees worldwide in over 30 different countries. And I think in a nutshell, it's a company that's been around for well over 110 years. And sustainable business, and it's really built on and hopes to set the example for standards such as continuous innovation, safety, and truly trying to lead the way with ethical leadership and quality.
Thank you, Joe.
Helps to give you a perspective.
Yeah. So that concern and commitment to the patient population, we're going to discuss in a minute Grifols' role with the COVID-19 pandemic, but this role of reaching out globally is not new to Grifols. So I thought maybe you could explain your work with Ebola.
Oh, sure. So back in 2014, Grifols researchers actually collaborated with a number of not-for-profit organizations and scientists from Liberia to ultimately help produce an anti-Ebola immunoglobulin. So this was kind of a long-term approach that Grifols took, doing a clinical research program. And it really, we helped to finance and actually build a first of its kind modular plasma donation building, which we then deployed over to Liberia. In addition, we constructed a dedicated processing facility in Clayton, North Carolina, which is where one of our major manufacturing complexes are here in the US. And that specific isolated building would be used to produce the anti-Ebola immunoglobulin. And I believe it was in December of 2018, we began the actual first batch of the plasma that we collected from the survivors of Ebola to start producing the hyperimmunoglobulin. I will say that Grifols, we had more than 40 of our Grifols employees and also professionals from the Probitas Foundation, which is Grifols' philanthropic organization, they volunteered and they actually went over and helped to set up this plasma collection process and did a lot of community outreach in Liberia. Grifols fully financed this whole Ebola project and again worked in collaboration with the Republic of Liberia, the US FDA, the World Health Organization, and really the culmination of all this was to produce an anti-Ebola immunoglobulin, in the context of utilizing the clinical trial in order to combat the Ebola virus. Companies dedicated more than $10 million to tackle that global health crisis. And really, we've seen this project as the potential to revolutionize the way that epidemics are approached globally. And we hope that this project with the Ebola program really helped to demonstrate Grifols' determination to really respond to these international healthcare crises whenever they would occur.
Thanks, Joe. So this sort of commitment to use plasma for patients who have recovered from certain conditions is not new to Grifols. So Nick, I assume that this was really the catalyst for Grifols to get involved with the COVID-19 research. Can you describe the first steps?
Thanks so much, Lisa, of course. So as you say, our experience with the Ebola epidemic in Liberia in 2014 was really the catalyst for our work on COVID-19 response. The principles of everything that Joe described, from collecting plasma from people who've recovered from Ebola, or COVID-19 in this case, and fractionating out high levels of high titer antibody product, hyperimmunoglobulin, for people who are currently suffering from the virus. So a lot of those same principles can be applied to other infectious diseases, including the novel coronavirus that we saw emerge at the end of last year. And so using our expertise and the things that we learned over the course of the Ebola response, we proactively reached out to health authorities around the world, including here in the US, as well as in Spain, where we are headquartered, as well as in China, to communicate our expertise and our experience on this type of epidemic response. And this experience involves everything from the collection of convalescent plasma from people who have recovered from COVID-19 to the manufacture and production of this hyperimmunoglobulin product, as well as lending our expertise on viral inactivation. All the plasma we collect, whether it's convalescent plasma and for COVID-19 response, or for source plasma collection for the production of traditional immunoglobulin products, goes through these viral inactivation steps to ensure that the plasma is free from potential pathogens. And sharing this type of viral inactivation of plasma was important to make sure the plasma is safe for transfusion in this case. And at the same time, outside of the sort of therapeutic development response, Grifols' diagnostic division became activated in this COVID-19 response as well. Our team in San Diego, as well as in Barcelona, collaborated to develop a very highly sensitive nucleic acid test to detect the coronavirus in blood and plasma samples. So this test is able to detect the genetic material of the virus itself to ensure that the blood and plasma that are intended for administration are free from this virus as a way to protect the recipient. And our overarching goal with these various initiatives is to advance the scientific understanding of the coronavirus and COVID-19 generally. As a brand new viral epidemic, there's so much we don't know about it, and anything we can do as Grifols to advance that knowledge from a scientific perspective, we're deploying all of our resources.
So Vlasta, Nick mentioned source plasma and convalescent plasma, and I think maybe before we get too much further in the conversation, can you help differentiate the two so we can understand the difference?
Sure. So source plasma is the plasma that's collected from healthy, qualified individuals. This plasma is what is used for all of our medications that we make from plasma. Convalescent plasma is plasma that is specifically collected from those who have recovered from COVID-19. So our understanding is that these individuals who have recovered have the antibodies to COVID-19, and that they can then donate that plasma so we can produce the medicine for it. These antibodies will help fight potentially the medicine will help fight those who in the future might have COVID-19. So the hope is that these people who have survived are able to donate their plasma, and then we can make a medicine that will help treat those in the future who might have it.
Nick, can you help us understand the volume that would be needed to do this kind of study?
Absolutely. So for the volume of plasma donations that is necessary to support the clinical trials ongoing for COVID-19 response, it's a little bit complex. As I mentioned, this is all pretty brand new for everybody, so there's a lot that we're still learning about it. But it's a substantially less number of donors than a traditional source plasma product. As some of the folks in the community may know, we estimate it takes about 465 individual plasma donations to treat one CIDP patient for 1 year. So obviously a significant number of plasma is necessary to treat patients. And that's part of the justification for our growing number of plasma collection facilities around the US. But when we transition to talk about COVID-19 convalescent plasma, whether we're talking about plasma for transfusion or plasma that's going to be further manufactured into this hyperimmune globulin product, it's a much smaller number of donors, probably in the single digits. But that's only to produce one dose of either plasma for transfusion or plasma or the hyperimmune globulin product. So it's not an annualized treatment figure, but a much fewer number of donations on the convalescent plasma side.
Okay, thanks. And Nick, you all are involved with the FDA in this research. Can you describe that?
That's right. Exactly. So as I mentioned, we've reached out to many public health authorities early on, and this has resulted in many different clinical trial initiatives that Grifols is involved in. So at the end of March, we entered into a formal collaboration with the Biomedical Advanced Research Development Authority, or BARDA. This is an organization that's part of the U.S. government that helps companies advance clinical trials quickly for innovative products. So through this formal collaboration, we have also reached out to the FDA and other public health authorities in the US to support clinical trials, both on the preclinical and clinical trials, to assess the safety and effectiveness of this hyperimmune globulin product. The protocols are still being finalized, so none of the trials have started yet. No patients have been enrolled. We're finalizing the final details of the clinical trials. And in addition to the hyperimmune globulin product, we are also exploring the opportunity to share our expertise on viral inactivation to treat convalescent plasma that's donated for direct transfusion in clinical trials as well. So many different trials ongoing, and they are still shifting.
So relatively speaking, a pretty quick response, though, given the complexities of everything.
Yeah, I think that's for sure the case. When you think about everybody's response, just not Grifols and other companies, I think everybody has done everything we could to try to respond as quickly, recognizing the dramatic impact the coronavirus has had on it.
So, Vlasta, if people want to get involved and they want to help, how can they donate? Where can they donate? How does that work?
Well, first they can donate at any one of Grifols plasma donor centers. About pretty much every single one of our centers is collecting convalescent plasma. If somebody's interested and they've recovered, we encourage folks to go to grifolsplasma.com. On that page is a link to a pre-screening form that they can fill out. It provides information about what their requirements are, both as a recovered donor and the regular donor requirements that they have. We do ask that folks have a positive test and have been symptom-free for 28 days, or have a negative test and symptom-free for 14 days. And we want them to be pre-screened. We don't want them to come to the center if they're not going to be qualified as a donor. Additionally, we will set up an appointment for them and make sure that when they come into the center, they have a warm reception and are taken care of. And there's folks on hand to help provide the pre-screening as well. So once they do it online, there's a phone number that they'll be encouraged to call, and there's Grifols employees ready to answer any questions and get them set up for their first donation.
So walking into a plasma center could be somewhat daunting to some. Have you made some changes? I imagine you have, to the donation centers to accommodate both the convalescent plasma and the source plasma?
Yeah, so as soon as the pandemic came into the United States, Grifols took all the steps that were recommended by the CDC and other local and national health authorities to prevent the spread of COVID-19 at our centers. So for instance, all of our centers are practicing social distancing, so everything is 6 feet apart. We have our donation beds 6 feet apart. We have taken out chairs in the waiting rooms to make sure that there's enough space between folks. Even when people are lining up, we ask people to be 6 feet apart. There's markings on the floor and all that to help with that. We are also encouraging anybody who doesn't feel well not to come into the center. We are monitoring temperature. So anybody who comes in, whether they're a donor or an employee, gets their temperature checked before they can walk into a center. And we are also putting in place additional face covering requirements. So everybody has to wear a face covering, including our employees, in addition to all the personal protective equipment, which they already were wearing, but now it's enhanced. And our donors are also asked to wear face coverings. And lastly, we are doing appointments. So much more frequent donors are asked to make appointments, so we know exactly how many people are in the center, so we can make sure we can practice that social distancing.
Thanks. I think that's very reassuring to everyone. So thanks for that, Vlasta. And Nick, you mentioned earlier source plasma and convalescent plasma. Does this collection of convalescent plasma have any effect on the source plasma that's used to fractionate immune globulin that treats CIDP patients?
No, Lisa, that's a great question, and I'm happy to report that we have not seen any impacts on our initiative to collect convalescent plasma on regular source plasma collection. So short answer is no impacts on source plasma collection, and actually we hope that maybe some of these people who are donating convalescent plasma maybe have not ever donated before, but now have an awareness of the importance of plasma donation and become regular donors in the future. So fingers crossed that this convalescent plasma collection program results in even more donors in the future once we get past the pandemic.
I hope so. I know here at the foundation, we look at all plasma donors as heroes. So I hope that is true. So, but what an amazing endeavor and response, and using all the tools and knowledge that Grifols has to put towards this. Joe, is there anything else, patients or donors, anything else we should know about this work that Grifols is doing?
Well, Lisa, first of all, thank you so much for recognizing that some of the true heroes out there in this pandemic are the donors. Without them, medicines wouldn't be made. But for me, I think the most important thing we would want to continue to stress is just continuing to increase plasma awareness out there. Whether it's for source plasma or COVID-19 plasma from the survivors of that. But there is a large initiative going on. As a matter of fact, I believe it officially will be launching today, if it hasn't already. It's called The Fight Is In Us. And it's really a united collaboration amongst many, many different players, including manufacturers, including medical facilities. A number of Hollywood stars are going to be in it. Blood centers are involved. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Microsoft, Uber, and it's really an effort to try to really pull together and raise awareness, across the country and really across the globe. So, if anything, our message would be for anybody out there to please, always be talking about plasma and trying to raise that awareness. And with that, I also would just like to say that, we hope everybody continues to follow the CDC guidelines. Make sure that you're wearing face masks in public. Please, continue to adhere to all of the safety precautions and ultimately be safe. So.
Thanks, Joe. As we like to say, social distancing does not have to mean social isolation. So, Joe, Nick, Vlasta, thank you so much for taking time to explain the good work that Grifols is doing. And we look forward to the results and the effect on the patient community. So thank you for all you do, but especially thank you for being with us today. And thank you to our listeners and viewers for watching our program.
Thanks.